course, philosophers among human beings are hardly 0.0000001%. Even human beings of average intellect are a hopeless minority. And generally the human beings are those who live at a primitive level of understanding. So for them, the guidance can be given only in the form of symbolism. They cannot understand if philosophy is spoken to them. Consequently, because the Quran came for all levels of human beings, and because this is the vital, the basic principle of Islam, that any malady should be curbed and rationality should be retained. So, at that festival, at that devotional practice, which is the highest in Islam, that is the Hajj, that is the highest. In that devotional practice, the story of submission to God, as demonstrated by Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam, and even by the mother of Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. At the time when Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam left the mother and the small kid there, you see, in that wilderness, alone. All these things have been symbolized in order to relearn that lesson, because that is Islam. Because that is Islam. So, when we go to perform the Hajj, we have to run. And if we can't run, just to walk fast in Mis'a. That place where the mother of Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam, in her utter anxiety for water to save the life of her child, she ran to and fro. So we have got to imitate it. That action has become ibadah for us, a part of worship for us, because it symbolizes the spirit. You see, the spirit was that this good lady, when Ibrahim alayhi salam said to her that I have been commanded that I should go away, this is a wilderness, nobody is here, and I have been commanded to leave you here with your small child. You see, then she said that if God has commanded it, I am ready. This is submission. You see? So it is because Islam means submission. Because Islam means submission to the will of God. Submission to the will of God in every activity of our life. So here the first act is there in Misra, running. Running not for the sake of running, running not for the sake of running between those two hillocks, you see, but to cultivate that spirit, to recall as a model that spirit which was there. Similarly, we go where Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam had taken his son outside of Mecca to sacrifice him, and there we perform our rites of the Hajj in Arafat and Mina and Muzdalifah. I'm saying that big sandy waste where he had taken him out in order to sacrifice him. Then we kill the animals. We sacrifice animals not for the sake of sacrificing them, of killing them, but for the sake of impinging on our consciousness that this is the mission, this is the path prescribed for us in Islam, not mere ritualism, not merely calling ourselves Muslims and just being let off like that. You see? That this animal self has got to be sacrificed. Every aspect of this animal self which is there within us, it has got to be sacrificed. That is the goal, and then alone we will succeed as Muslims. Now, up to this point, there can be no objection. It is a symbolism. It is done like that with this spirit. But then comes the problem of the clumsy manner in which Muslims have been doing all their things for centuries now. And it makes me sad to say it again and again, but I must say it. According to the Holy Quran, those who waste anything, they are devil's brothers. Wastage is considered as a major sin, a devilish sin in Islam. To an extent that the Holy Prophet ﷺ has said it, that if you drop even a very small quantity of common salt and waste it, you will have to lift it with your eyebrows on the Day of Judgment. How terrible it will be. Because common salt is put into the eyes, when it touches the eyeballs, gives intense pain. You see, just to emphasize that wastage is the biggest sin. Now, what I have been saying all the time is, unless you take Islam as a whole, you cannot get benefits from Islam properly. So that animal sacrifice is made there, and all those animals are thrown for the bulldozers to turn them into dust. In this 20th century, when there are plants have been built for preservation and canning of foods, of meat, of everything. When there are plants, chemical plants, whereby fertilizers can be made from the bones, and every part of the animal can be used. Physical science has now arrived at that stage. You see, so this is a major sin which they are committing. This sin of wastage. They are wasting them. They can preserve that meat. They can sell that meat just as Australia and Holland and other countries are sending out canned meat worth millions, and through those millions they can undertake social welfare schemes in any part of the world, because the Hajj is performed by Muslims from all over the world. The benefits of that Hajj should go to all Muslims everywhere. So thereby they can build up a huge fund year after year from which they can serve mankind. They are not doing it. It is not the fault of Islam. Is my answer complete?
No, except Mawlana,
just one moment. Can that be lived out by a Haji? Will his Hajj be completed? Can he get out of the Ihram by not?
No.
In view of this wastage?
No, even then, that is their crime, who are organizing and administering the entire
You've got to do it.
You have got to do it. This has been ordered by the Holy Prophet ﷺ. It is one of the part of it.
Whether you don't approve of it.
Anyway.
the disapproval is only of the wastage.
Yes.
Not the whole process
Yes.
Mawlana has given.
Mawlana, I want to ask one question. It's in regard to this Masjid al-Aqsa, the present Masjid al-Aqsa that was burned recently. Was this Masjid al-Aqsa there at the time of our Rasulullah when he went to Miraj? This present one?
Even the same structure.
Or
No.
was there another structure?
No, not the same structure. It was a hill,
It was a hill. Right?
you see. And on that hill the Holy Prophet ﷺ prayed, and behind him prayed all God's prophets, you see. And that particular stone from where he mounted on the vehicle which was sent for him by God Almighty from outer space, All these things are there.
So the dome
And-
of the rock, no?
Huh?
The dome of the rock.
The
Dome of the rock.
dome of the rock, you may call it, you see, whatever you may call it.
In the mosque of the
Yes. Now, because that hill became so sacred, therefore this Masjid al-Aqsa was built there by Caliph Umar. You see? And that dome of the rock itself was built in order to enclose that space.
Now the point is this, I've read a hadith or I've heard about a hadith where it is said that when Rasulullah came back from the Miraj, some Yahudis asked him to describe that Masjid al-Aqsa. And there he described some pillars and
No.
that part.
No. They asked him to describe Jerusalem, not Masjid al-Aqsa. Jerusalem was there at that time. Yes.
Another question here.
This is the confusion of the word Masjid al-Aqsa used in the ayat. The word is used Masjid al-Aqsa in the Quran.
Right.
But then it was a hill. And the place where you make sajda is
Masjid is a place where you make sajda, not the structure.
not the structure.
Wasn't there
That is why the Holy Prophet ﷺ has said that the entire earth has been made masjid for me.
wasn't there a structure at the time of Solomon where the Quran records that the jinns had built a mosque as Solomon wanted it?
Yes, I haven't
And
said.
is the present mosque built on that very site?
No. This is only a intrigue of the Jews. Muslims have always been very careful because Islam has laid down that they should never hurt the feelings of any other community. Muslims have been forbidden from taking into their possession any monuments, historical monuments or these holy monuments of other communities. It was not done. The temple of Solomon might have been nearby.
When I was there last year, Mawlana, the Sheikh told me where the Jews were wailing, the mines that was called Al-Burak. At the time of the Miraj, the Rasul Al-Burak was seated there. Now they've changed it. They've removed that sign.
Yes. That of course they will do. That they will do.
Is that correct? The Wailing Wall is Al-Burak?
Pardon?
The Wailing Wall.
No.
Where the Jews preach.
No. The Wailing Wall again, you see, historically it is not known where it is.
Is that the mind of the Solomon's temples?
Yes, it is. It is adjoining Solomon's temple. But even about that, they are now carrying out excavations in order to find out if they can find the foundations of that Solomon's temple. But of course it was in Jerusalem. But every township during the ages, during centuries and centuries in the past, and millennia, of course, have passed on this city, then it is always shifting. Every township is always shifting, you see, gradually. And consequently, we cannot say where Jerusalem itself was at the time of Solomon. And of course, every masjid, every house of worship, which any prophet of God made anywhere, whether that prophet of God who came to these Bantus and Zulus, which he made here, you see, it might have been called by any name, but that will be called in Islamic terminology as masjid. Because the religion which every prophet of God brought was al-Islam and no other.
But when the Quran describes the word Allazi Barakna Hawlahu, the neighborhood whereof we have blessed.
Yes.
So we take it what you call that this mosque, even at the time when the Prophet prayed, and the Solomon's temple was somewhere in the vicinity
Yes.
of this area.
Hawlahu.
Yeah.
Hawlahu means its surroundings. Now, its surroundings are covered by the tombs of those great prophets. Even Abraham is there.
Yeah, Abraham is there.
You see, in Hebron. And Hebron is not far away from there, as a matter of fact. It
40
is,
miles.
Yes, only 40 miles.
Yeah.
But we don't know that in Abraham's time where this township was. You see? So I mean say, Hebron is one of its hawl, surroundings. And similarly, there are surroundings in which there are the other Anbiya alayhimu salatu wassalam. And no place on earth can be more blessed than where the bodies of the Anbiya have been laid.
Musa,
Before you
please.
proceed, the question of
The question about
cemetery,
the Janazah Namaz at the graveyard.
Why do you ask me these questions, my dear friends? These questions you should ask from the Council of Muftis. These are very, very small questions. You ask them, you send your fatwa to Al-Azhar, you send your fatwa to, you send your istifta to Al-Azhar or to, I mean, there are so many other institutions, because if you ask me continuously, there are differences of opinions on these points that they will create only mischief, and I don't reside in this country, and I have no time, you see, to answer questions and counter questions and all that nonsense. I have absolutely no time. I am working only on the higher subjects of Islam.
Can we go into that now? Just before we go into that, this question of yours, Musa, about the slaughtering of animals when we go for Hajj. And when you say that when you slaughter the animal, then it is a symbol whereby you kill the animal in you. Is that correct?
It is a symbol
To kill the animal in you.
to remind you that this is your mission.
In
This
order
is
to
your
kill the animal
mission
in
to
you.
yourself, yes.
Now, who must slaughter the animal? I must slaughter it in order to give me the full impact of the theory or the philosophy.
Yes. You have been asked to do
So
it.
I must slaughter it myself.
Yes.
Not somebody else as it is done there.
So there are people that do that.
Yeah, now how can it give you the same feeling? How can it kill you? You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, yes.
So don't you think that if you don't do it yourself, then it is purposeless?
Huh?
Don't you think if you don't slaughter the animal yourself,
Yeah.
you'll never be able to get the real feeling?
Well, even if
Somebody
you,
else does the killing for you, you know.
my dear brother, even if you slaughter it yourself, you may not be conscious of what you are doing, and you may not have any feeling at all, except a ritual. You see? But this is very clear in Islam, that Muslims have been asked that when they sacrifice anything on their behalf, the sacrifice must be done by them. You see? And in connection with this Qabristan business, you see, the matter is very clear. The matter is very clear. Where there are these graves, you see, inside that, you should have an enclosure where you may have janaza namaz or any other namaz. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. But if there are graves in the graveyard, in the first instance, according to the Islamic law, these graves must be made contiguous to one another. And if they are made contiguous to one another, there can be absolutely no place for any person to offer his prayers. This is one thing. The other thing is that if in that graveyard prayers to God are actually performed and they are permitted, then there can be graves of saintly persons there and of leaders there also, or even of one's parents and so on and so forth. So it will give a sort of resemblance to the older communities who used to worship graves also. Of course, your intention when you are praying there is that you are praying to God, you see, but there will be graves in your front, you see, and it will be a sort of resemblance, and consequently the law has been laid down that if you wish to offer Salatul Janaza or any other namaz in a graveyard, then you should enclose a space there with walls, so that when you are inside that, no qabr is visible to you, and it can no more be considered as part and parcel of that graveyard. It is adjacent to it and adjoining it. You know why Muslims have been forbidden from praying to God at the time when the sun is rising, or at the time when the sun is at its zenith, and at the time when the sun is setting. It is not that, Maazallah, God forbid, God is absent at that time and you can't pray to Him. He is there all the time. But because the sun worshippers used to worship their idol or their concept of the deity, only at these 3 times, therefore we have been forbidden. Otherwise, to remember God at any time and at all times is equally good. But to perform our devotional prayer, you see, at these 3 times it has been prohibited for this reason alone. You see. So, praying inside an enclosure in a graveyard,
Also, just
just right there, you see, if at one corner you do that thing, it's all right.
But Mawlana, our graveyard here is open. We can see the grave. When we go and pray, we can see the grave.
No. The enclosure must be the high walls.
Yeah, but there's no walls what we put.
It's open. You can see all the graves while you're standing and performing the namaz.
When the namaz, you can't see the grave. You're looking in front.
You can't see when you perform the namaz, you can't see the grave.
Anyway, Mawlana has given us the thing as how it should be. If it's not there, we must make it.
There are no graves in front of us.
No, but
But now when you perform the namaz, you can see. How can you see when you perform your namaz?
This side and this side, we got very burglar proofing.
But in front we got
Mawlana told us what is required.
Asar, you know.
We must examine it, and if the required has to make it.
We must make it.
You must make the walls, then be alright.
That doesn't mean
yes, we'll have to enclose it right round.
No graves must be visible.
no grace must be visible.
Mawlana, we are wrong. Just one very small point, Mawlana. No CH and I'm sorry to use this word in your presence. It's about this question of the Tarawih namaz. You mentioned that the majority must then choose an imam or choose a hafiz that conforms with the majority's wishes. Now that is perfectly correct, sir. But when the majority does that, Mawlana, this group that does not agree with this, that is why I asked my brother Joe to stay behind. This group that does not agree with this majority is breaking away.
They should
So
not.
much so, I'll tell you, sir, so much so that there is now this talk of them completely breaking away, performing Tarawih namaz elsewhere,
That is very
starting their own
wrong. That is
madrasa,
very wrong. They
and
should
even
be
building their own
considered.
mosque. Now, my point to you, sir, is that is there no other formula?
No.
You said that we must choose the imam that conforms with the wishes of the majority. By doing that, sir, this group is now breaking away, this other minority group.
The minority.
With the result that there is now a great division in the community. You get my point, sir?
No, but for irrational things, what solution can there be?
Yes, I agree.
Can you have a sort of magic wand whereby you can bring about a solution?
No, couldn't you perhaps prescribe a basis of compromise?
I would say the basis of compromise is just this. I would say unless people are considerate to one another, unless people are like that, you see, there can be no compromise.
You were not yesterday, Mawlana gave
No,
the example of a prophet, Hazrat Harun, and the shirk was committed.
Yes.
And to preserve unity, he even tolerated that.
Yes.
Yes, I remember that.
Mawlana, about the zakat, the thing is now, can we establish a community chest, or I don't know if the Baitul Mal is the right term, saying Lodium? Here.
Yes, you see, I mean, say, there is a point of view in connection with zakat that zakat money, after spending on all those items for which it is meant, if there is a surplus amount, it can be invested, you see. And as a matter of fact, what Islam wants is that there should be a community chest. If there is no Islamic state, then there should be a community chest, and all zakat should be paid into that chest. And the community should maintain a sort of register of all Muslim families who are there in that area, and their exact economic condition, and as to how much is needed by whom, you see, so that the elders of the community may sit at the end of the year, you see, when collection is made, And then they should defray the needs of the individuals and the families, you see, from that chest. That is the real Islamic method. The Islamic method is not giving zakat individually. Then in giving zakat individually, again, something which Muslims seem to have forgotten is that the function of zakat is to make people prosperous and not to make people beggars. Now, if a person, in my country, what I see many people doing, and I feel very sad about it, is that if a person has got to give 1,000 rands as zakat, in the month of Ramadan, when he has made his hisab, his account, and then he finds that I should pay 1,000 rands as zakat, he takes out that money, you see, puts it in a separate box, and then makes it into 1 rand notes and 5 rand notes and 10 rand notes and like that, you see, in different groups. And then beggars, armies of beggars float on the roads of of Karachi, from shop to shop. It is a very ugly scene. And they go to this shop, and then this man sees the face of one person, and he has also got to do his business, you see, so he doesn't feel happy about it, but he carries on in this way. Then he would give 50 cents to a person, or 1 rand to a person, or 2 rands, like that. And in that way, this money is given. Now, this probably is the most anti-Islamic manner of paying zakat, anti-Islamic, because the function of zakat is to abolish beggary, so that no beggar remains in the Muslim community. And people should be helped in a manner that they may become prosperous, self-supporting themselves, not 5 rands, even 5,000 rands can be paid to one person, in order that he may invest it in business and he may no more remain a beggar. You see? So, and this thing can be done only if it is in an organized manner, where the zakat of all those who pay zakat, it is pooled, then it forms into a big amount. And out of that, zakat should be paid to all those who need it in a planned manner, honest way. You see? That is what Islam wants.
And after being I'd like to clarify a point. We had a meeting in regard to this. We had a Mawlana here who told us that your zakat can only be given to a king. And since there are no more Muslim kings here in this country, it's out of question.
No.
And otherwise, it can only given by you individually. But if you give it to an organization, then it is...
No, but mind you, I don't know why he said this, because the Holy Prophet ﷺ has clearly laid down, alaykum bil jama'ah. Every Muslim should live in an organized community of Muslims. He says a sort of organization which is run on the basis of law, you see, and which is run on the basis of honesty. Otherwise it cannot be called a Muslim community. It's not a community, it is individuals living. It's not a community.
So you mean to say we must have independent treasurers, financial independent treasurers?
Yeah, I mean to say that Baitul Mal which is established by the Islamic State, it is also the duty of every Muslim group, wherever it may be, to establish that community chest.
Now we are collecting for this madrasa. Now we need a lot of money. May come time that we may not be able to collect the whole amount. Can we put our zakat money to fill that up?
Well,
we may not be able to fill that amount because it's a very big amount. Now if I got some zakat money, can I give it in there?
yes, I mean say, unfortunately the point of view of the ulama of India and Pakistan, of our Sunni ulama to which we belong, that is school of thought, has been in a way opposed to it. But there are ulama who feel that the item of zakat mentioned in the Quran, one of the items is fi sabilillah, in the way of God. Now in this connection, this school of thought says, our ulama in general, our Sunni and Hanafi ulama of India and Pakistan, they are of the opinion, on the basis of older books, not from their own side. It's not that, God forbid, they are dishonest or anything. They are honest in that, you see. But they try to follow what the older thought is. Now the older conditions were different. There were Muslims were a supreme power in the world, and they were very wealthy and prosperous people, and their governments were there, and all those things were there. Conditions were not the same then as they are now. So at that time, this fi sabilillah was interpreted as supplying arms to the Muslim soldiers when they went for jihad, or supplying, providing money to their families during the absence of those people who went for jihad. You see, now, it comes actually to defense of Islam. The item becomes that this money in this item can be actually spent on defense of Islam. All right, and so now when this jihad is not being made and has not remained possible, you see, then and Islam is to be defended